It's not news to any of you that we are going through the most difficult times in our history in America, and really some of the most difficult times in American history. We have the challenge of COVID-19 and the quarantine that goes with that, and homeschooling of kids and working from home, and people losing their jobs or being laid off from their jobs. We have the socio-political conflict, which was going beforehand, and that in fact I hope that the COVID-19 challenge would help us to come together, but not surprisingly, it was one more place in which we separated and created a big problem in our conflict. But we see the much broader conflict. Right now we have our presidential election being contested, and even when that's resolved, I doubt that's going to be the end of things. I think that's likely to be the beginning of much worse things in terms of our socio-political picture. And then the economic insecurity. We were already on shaky ground with a $1.3 trillion national debt every year. But we threw in several more trillion on top of that, and it's really very threatening for us. We've lost a lot of jobs, a lot of businesses, and that money that was put out is going to cost us. So in every way, we're feeling a lot of pressure on the biggest scale. And so what you watch many people do is they're dealing with that. Is they're watching the news, they're following what what's going on their phone and so on, and getting more and more excited about all the crazy stuff that's going on in our country. And particularly if they have any kind of a particular political bias, what happens, and what I've watched happen in my friends who are particularly liberal or conservative, is they spend most of their time talking about and thinking about the terrible things that the other side is doing. And they're getting worked up about it, and they're getting upset about it, they're getting angry, and they're getting scared and so on. And although I understand those feelings, because these are frightening times, the thing is, all change starts with self. The only thing we can really do about this is to vote. Okay? That's kind of it. We can go and talk to our congressman if we can get him to listen to us, but the truth is that's really the only way we can exercise effort, however we spend so much time thinking and talking about this. The next level in terms of our society is all the things that happen in our community, our civic groups, our businesses, schools, children's activities, etc. All those ways we're involved in our community. In truth, a lot of that stuff is on hold right now. So when we face this crisis, the message is we need to start at the very center, okay? The very center. This is the one thing that we really have a pretty good amount of control of, or at least we need to learn how to have control of that part of ourselves anyway. We need to be able to start with self as a way to make the world a better place, okay? And we carry a lot of bias around that, all right? The natural tendency with human beings is two things. Is all the problems in the world exist from here out, okay? From here in, it's good. We're good. Not problems there. Problems are with the way the government runs things, or my business runs things, or my friends, or my spouse, or my kids, or finance, or whatever. But it's hard to look in the mirror and say, you know what? These beliefs and this way of looking at the world that I have are flawed. Now, I don't think that because my perspective is my perspective. Therefore, I think it is truth. But that is the one thing we can do something about, is to alter my reality in certain ways that allows me to be more at peace and more adept. One of the tough things when we talk about coping is that on one hand, emotion allows us motivation and drive. That's really why emotion exists. Emotion is a way of creating a compelling physical sensation that pushes us towards some kind of action. And whether that is to be loving and caring towards the people we care about, or that's to protect people we love, or that's to defend ourselves against a threat, emotion, that's its function. But the thing to recognize about the relationship between clarity of thought and competence on any issue and emotional intensity about that issue is that they work in inverse proportion. The more loaded I am with emotion about any issue, the less competent I become, okay? No matter how much I care about it, the caring about it doesn't make me capable, okay? The caring about it makes me overreact, misreact, and I start creating a lot of reactants, and I end up hurting myself and other people. So one of the biggest things we want to do, first we focus on self, realize that that's the only thing I can do something about, and secondly I realize that when I'm looking at the world like this, I'm miserable and I'm not competent, okay? So one of the things we definitely want to do is be able to do this thing where we can bring down that anxiety, and in so doing we bring up that clarity and competence. And in so doing, one of the things we want to critically do is that there are flaws in our framework for reality. We don't see reality in absolute truth, and truth is what lets us really solve problems. And so in making this transition, I also want to wake up about some things, okay? Some things about the way I look at the world that don't really work that well. Okay? So those are the real premises of what we're going to look at, and what we're going to talk about in our presentation is coming up in just a moment, is to start with talking about self and identifying some of the most standard things that go on within self that create problems for us. And as we can get that going, then we move out to talking about marriage and how that competence within self allows you to really look at those things in your marriage that you've sort of tolerated, but in times of crisis, you can't deal with them as well. You need to come together in crisis, not come apart. And then family, once you're connected to self and connected to marriage, then you can do something with the kids, okay? If you don't have your act together, and if you're a couple, your partnership is not together, your ability to do something good for your kids just doesn't exist. From that point out, then you move out to the broader community and so on. And one of the things I think that goes on here is this has been an opportunity for us to rethink what is important in terms of my involvement in the world. I only have so much time and so much energy, okay? And so this pause, where I'm pulled back, really allows me to reassess how I give my energy out in the world. And it may lead me to kind of reapportion in different ways. And then ultimately, hopefully, if we as individuals can do this, and we can make our communities better, then we can begin to affect the bigger picture, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about. If you're interested in the more complete presentation on this, just hit below to the much longer presentation on this. And also remember to sanitize and subscribe.